That's good. Hi everybody, welcome to the Quag Wildlife Refuge. I just want to give everyone a few minutes to arrive. So I'm just going to wait just a few minutes, or maybe just 1 minute. Let's see. All right, should be good.
Good job.
You might be hearing one of our animals right now. Our great horned owl is calling a bunch. Let's see. All right. Hey, I think it is working. All right, I'm going to leave the screen for just a second while we check that everything's working before we get started. But I want to leave you with a beautiful mural behind me, and we're just going to double check that everything's working before we get going. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll be right back.
Oh, okay.
All right, sorry guys, we get a little paranoid. Just wanted to make sure everything was working correctly. So welcome. We today are going to talk to you guys about some of the animals that we take care of at the Quag Wildlife Refuge. If you've never been to the Quag Wildlife Refuge, we are a small nonprofit nature preserve located in Quag, only about 30 minutes from Bayport-Blue. And we take care of lots of different animal species. We take care of lots of different reptiles, birds of prey. Today we're going to meet a little bit of everything. But part of our mission at the refuge is environmental education. So the animals that we take care of, we teach with, and we always want people to learn about them, learn to love them. So we're excited to talk to you guys. The refuge was founded in 1934, and we have 7 miles of hiking trails that you can come and visit. We are still open. The trails are open, as well as our outside animal complex, but the nature center and our restrooms are closed. But you can still hike here at the refuge sunrise to sunset, and if you want to walk around a beautiful freshwater pond, see the pine barrens in real life, you can come visit us at the refuge. Our website has a lot more information about how we're operating in this time right now. We're doing a lot of virtual programs, which has been really fun. So thank you guys for tuning in. I did just want to mention as well, feel free to leave any comments that we can see them, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask them as well. We also take care of permanently injured wildlife, and those are some animals that we're going to meet today, animals that can't go back into the wild, and that's why we take care of them. Some of the other animals that we have were people's pets that they couldn't take care of anymore, and those are some as well that we're going to meet today. Like I said though, if you're just tuning in, we are at the Quag Wildlife Refuge. My name is Kara, I'm an educator here, and Tony is also with us, who's going to show us our first animal. But please, like I said, leave any comments, questions that you have about the refuge, and we're excited to show you some of our animals.
All right, hi there everyone at home. My name is Mr. Tony, and this is Crypto. You can say hello. So this is our first resident animal we'll meet today. He's a special type of reptile. Does anybody know what type of reptile this is at home just by looking at him? There you go, see those nice spikes on him? This is a bearded dragon. So this is not just any bearded dragon. This is probably our oldest bearded dragon here at the refuge. He was someone's pet originally that they couldn't or didn't want to take care of any longer. But Crypto here is originally from a special place, a continent and a country all wrapped into one, which is Australia. So you could say good day, mate, to Crypto here. Good day, mate, everyone. And you can see he's got a beautiful design where he's got these spikes on every single scale. So he's covered in scales. He's obviously a reptile who's cold-blooded, but he camouflages and blends in with the surrounding areas of those deserts. He looks just like sand when he's in those areas. But this is a special animal that has a name that tells us what his defense system is. So he's called the bearded dragon. It's not because he forgot to shave like Mr. Tony here. It's because this guy can actually change color or coloration under his chin here based on his mood to signal different emotions and things like that, almost like a living mood ring. So right now he's got this very cream-like color. Nothing's really happening here. But if he was excited or really defensive of his territory or his lady and happy, he could turn a nice jet black color just like me. On this part of his beard, but if it's a female, they can go orange coloration. So when you get a bearded dragon, just know they're not sick. They change colors. They can flush that color right across this whole chin and beard area here. So Crypto here, he is full grown. This is about as big as they get, which is great because as a lizard in the pet world, they're small enough to take care of. They're very gentle and docile creatures. I actually have 2 of them at home. And what's really cool is what they eat. They're omnivores. So, like a lot of us, they'll eat their vegetables, their fruit, and also they need their protein. So, in that meal, that means they can have everything from different types of lettuces, apples, squash, right, zucchini, strawberries. And then for proteins, you can give them crickets or mealworms or superworms to balance that out. So, really cool eater right here. Now, if you take a look, those scales right there on the side, it looks like it could hurt me, but these spikes are very relaxed right now. But if he was scared, he could puff out. And what animal puffs out when they get scared at home? What do you think? What animal gets scared and puffs out spikes like this guy? Good. So we have porcupines, pufferfish. Also, you have things like little hedgehogs, not Sonic. So they also use spikes as a defense system. So if you were a predator coming up behind him, you definitely would not want to eat this guy, because if you tried to swallow him from behind, first of all, he has this tail he can whip back and forth. He has these nice long nails, but he'd kind of be stuck because of these spikes are pointing downward. So every time you pet any type of animal, especially bearded dragon, you want to remember to pet from head to tail. All right, head to tail, especially with them. Does anyone have any pets at home? Okay, if you do, you have to remember how to get the right pet for your family, which means know how big they grow, know how old they can live, and also know exactly what they eat, right? You don't want an animal that's going to be 25 feet long and eat your brother and sister in the morning. So you want to make sure all that research is done beforehand, because they are family members for life, right? Not that we just send them alone. If you have any questions at all, you can, there you go, I see some coming in, some different things. I have 2 cats. Very good. So, once again, this is one of the most common pet lizards out there. But again, do your research. Here we go. He's squirming around. You can even see his ear holes on the side. Oh, he's doing his bearded dragon head bob dance. That's how you know it's a boy. And the females usually will wave like this. So they even have their own dance move. So if your kid's running down the hall at school or at home, bobbing their head, you know what's going on. All right. We're going to say goodbye to Crypto and move on to our next creature. All right, I see some good comments coming in.
All right, so this is another reptile similar to Crypto, but also very different. This is an animal that you hardly ever see out in the wild. And we do have the eastern mud turtle on Long Island, but they are a species of special concern labeled by the DEC because their populations are declining a lot on Long Island. This is actually a yellow mud turtle. And they're native to the south of the US and in certain parts of Mexico. But I did want to show you guys him up close because I think he is super, super cute. Our yellow mud turtle we've had for a number of years. Unfortunately, someone had her, or rather him, as a pet, and it is illegal to have any native or wild animal as a pet. So he was confiscated by the DEC, and that's why we have him now. But this is a turtle that, because they're named yellow mud turtle, you might have an imagination about where they live. They live in the mud. So this is an animal that's very cryptic. They're super well camouflaged for their habitats. And you can see if he sticks out his neck, I'll turn him sideways. Once he sticks out his neck, it's so much longer than his body, and he's able to sit on the bottom of a shallow pond and stick his head up to breathe air. Just like Crypto, our bearded dragon, this animal, all turtles are reptiles. So just like lizards, they're cold-blooded, they lay eggs, and they don't usually take care of their young. A yellow mud turtle can lay maybe 9 to 10 eggs in a clutch. That's another reason why these animals are sometimes endangered, especially turtles, because they don't lay as many eggs as other animals do. So when they lay their eggs, another turtle or another animal like a raccoon might eat some of those eggs, and then only a few babies will survive. So that's one reason why these turtles are becoming endangered. Turtles are actually really amazing reptiles. They have this specialized scale, a shell, on their back, and that protects them from lots of different things. This guy also, you can tell, lives in water and on land as well by these beautiful, he doesn't want me to touch his feet, but those beautiful claws and webbed feet. So that helps him a lot in the wild. This turtle is probably around 10 to 15 years old. In the wild, they can live up to 40. So it's kind of amazing how long turtles can live. This is an example of a turtle, though, that we're most likely not going to see on Long Island. We're going to meet another turtle today, though, that hopefully you have seen on Long Island. But there are a lot of different species of turtles here, which is really great. Snapping turtles, box turtles, spotted turtles, diamondback terrapins, all of those species live on Long Island and call Long Island home too. So we'll talk more about turtles in a little bit when we meet our next guy, but I did want to show you another close-up. So even though turtles are reptiles and they live in the water, they don't breathe water like a fish does. They breathe air. So that's why he has these 2 nostrils and those webbed feet like I was talking about. Something that's really cool about the yellow mud turtle is that on the back of their tail, they have what looks like a nail or a spike. And it might be hard. I want to show you guys. Let's see if it will come through. On the back of his tail, you can kind of see it. There's that little spike. And scientists don't really know why they have that. So maybe you guys have an idea. We can leave it in the chat. But that's kind of an amazing adaptation that these yellow mud turtles have. The males have the spike at the end of the tail, but the females don't. In certain mud turtles, both females and males have the spike at the end of their tail. So pretty amazing. But this is one of my favorite turtles. He's one of our water turtles. So he lives in a tank with water and other species of turtles. And when the nature center is open, you can come visit this guy. In the wild, they'll eat crawfish, they'll eat worms, bugs at the surface of the water. And of course, over the winter time, they hibernate. So pretty amazing little turtles. And he is full grown at probably only 8 inches on his top shell right here, called a carapace. All right, are you guys ready to meet hopefully a turtle that you've seen on Long Island? He's coming up right now, and I'm going to put this guy back in his tank, in his water tank. But again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. Okay.
Well, that's him. Yeah. Nice. Whoa. All right. Who's seen this guy before? This is your beautiful species of eastern box turtle. Don't confuse them with western. They get very upset. They're like, I'm the eastern box turtle. This kind of turtle is found all around America, but on Long Island we specifically see them, and they're living in areas like our backyards and woodlands, because this is known as a terrestrial turtle. Unlike the one that Kara just had, which is based on it's a water turtle, needs to live in water, these turtles do not. They actually live in the forest floors. You'll see them in your backyards walking around. And this turtle is incredible. It has a significant life. They can go 40 to 50 years sometimes, but they have some specific needs that we need to help them out as humans. And this is where conservation comes in, number one. All these animals you meet today have a special story of why they're here with us. They have injuries and other things, or they're given to us, but these specific animals that are indigenous to our area, like the eastern box turtle, needs our help. They used to be on the endangered species list a long time ago, meaning there weren't many of them left. They were fighting all kinds of things. Our human interaction, from destroying habitats, cars, and other things, lawnmowers, have hurt them in many ways. Even things like poisons put on our lawns. So these things we have to keep in consideration when we're dealing with these special animals. So this right here is a male box turtle, Mr. Boxy here. Can anyone see his eye color at home? What color eyes do you see he has? Good. Okay, we have red, bright red eyes. So that tells us that's one sign he's a male. Another sign is by looking at the bottom part of his shell, right? His plastron right below here has a dent in it, and that says he's a male also. And usually they have more bright colors like yellow and orange on them. So we know this is a fully grown male eastern box turtle. A female would have brown eyes, and she'd have a flat bottom shell or plastron, and she'd camouflage a lot more with the woods. He thinks he's flying right now. He's one of the original Ninja Turtles. With this one right here, they do lay eggs, obviously, on land, but when they hatch, they come out and they're so tiny, just about the size of a quarter. So we have to look out for hatchlings in the spring and early summer. A lot of times they don't get seen and they get run over by cars or injured by our animals, so we want to keep an eye out for them. But most of all, if they're hatching out of your lawn, you want to make sure that whoever's doing the landscaping can double check, because 2 of our turtles had been hit by either lawnmowers or weed whackers, and their legs were actually gone in the back, so we have to be careful for that. What's another way you can help turtles at home? Let's see. Let's see if anyone's typing away there. Okay. So if you see a turtle like this trying to cross the road, right? Why did the turtle cross the road? Of course, to get to the other side. But they usually have their own built-in GPS system. As they're going across the road, they know exactly where to find food and also where to lay their eggs. So one way we can help is have an adult get out of the car, pull the car over, and help them across the road in the direction they're going. And that's very important. We want to watch out for cars ourselves when we're doing this, but a lot of times they get mistaken for just a rock in the middle of the road and they get hit because they are going so slow. So that's one way we can help. Now, the reason why they call them box turtles, not boxer turtles like I used to think as a kid, I was like, oh, they get out of their shell and they box each other. No. What they do is they have a specialized hinge shell on the bottom that can completely close their bodies up in the safest form of a box, completely hinged closed. So this little section down here has a muscle that pulls up this shell. His whole head, arms, and everything squeeze inside, and he's protected from predators. Great, great defense. No other turtle on Long Island can do this. So this is pretty cool to see. And that's what makes them extra docile and gentle, which is also a downfall where people think they can pick them up and keep them as pets. But as Kara said before, if you were listening, can you keep a native animal like a turtle or anything as a pet here? Nope, they're all protected. So those baby bunnies, birds, turtles, everything is protected here on Long Island. You cannot keep them in your house as a pet. They need to be wild and free, right? Just like us. All right. If you have any questions about this turtle, just ask. But one thing I wanted to show after, well, maybe I can show you now while he's hanging out, is the turtle shell right here. Shows for turtles like this is an eastern box turtle shell after the scutes come off. So these top pieces are called scutes, right? And you can see it has color, but underneath is bone. So the top part of the scute is like your fingernail, right? Keratin. And if you tap your fingernail, can you feel that? Okay. Turtles can feel that through their shell. And the reason for that is because their shell is actually part of their backbone. and you can see the spinal column going down. So all of those nerve endings go through there. So they do feel if they're being tapped or scratched, and their shell grows with them just the way your vertebrae grows. So it's part of their bone structure. So they can't jump out, run around, and jump back in like the cartoons. All right. Anything else about this beautiful turtle? Like Kara said, we also have a lot of water turtles like snappers, painted turtles, spotted turtles. And all of them are here to do a special job. But this is the main terrestrial turtle that we have here. All right, everyone say goodbye to Boxy. Good job.
All right, so this is one of my favorite animals to work with, and he's actually saying hello to all of you guys right now. Let's see if he'll talk again. So he's just looking around now, but our great horned owl... Our great horned owl's name is Hooter, and now you can see why his name is Hooter, right? They make that beautiful deep hoot that goes hoo, hoo. This is a bird that you can absolutely see in your backyards, in your local parks. Great horned owls are one of our most common birds of prey, and also one of the most common owls that we have on Long Island. So before we get into learning about great horned owls, our great horned owl Hooter, I wanted to tell you his story. So unfortunately, when Hooter was a young owl, an owlet, he probably fell from the nest a little bit too early. And unfortunately, someone thought that the best thing to do to help him was to take him from the wild and try to take care of him as a pet. And of course, that was a bad idea because great horned owls should always be kept wild. But because he was kept in someone's house for so long, unfortunately, he became imprinted on people. And that just means that he now thinks of people as his family. He knows that people give him food and sometimes give him affection. And that's the reason why Hooter can't go back into the wild, because he will always associate people with food. And that's one reason why he can't go back into the wild too. Hooter is actually over 20 years old, and over time he's lost some of his vision. So you might see him turning his head a lot. And what he's doing is listening. So he lost his vision due to the West Nile virus. And unfortunately, there's no corrective surgery that could fix his eyesight. But he still is able to get around in human care. And that's a really good thing because if he didn't, any owl that relies so much on their eyesight wouldn't be able to survive in the wild without that. So other birds can be affected by the West Nile virus. Owls, especially bigger birds of prey, and blue jays and crows, they can also be affected by the West Nile virus. So Hooter, though, he is, like I was saying, around 20 years old, or a little over 20 years old. He does talk a lot, so you might hear him talking. Now is, of course, when he is when he's waking up, right? Owls are nocturnal. So this guy is getting a little bit more active as the sun goes down. And so you might see he's kind of moving around more than he normally would during the daytime. When we take our birds of prey out on programs, they are wearing these things around their ankles called jesses. They're made out of leather. And then attached to that is a leash. So that way we can keep him nice and safe. And what I have on my hand here is a leather glove. And that just protects my hands from his really, really sharp talons. So if you can see those talons, great horned owls actually have one of the hardest grip on their prey. It takes around 40 pounds of force to open up their talons once they're squeezed on their prey. So pretty amazing birds that hunt other animals. They also have that curved beak, and that is really good for finding and eating their prey. These guys will eat a mix of rodents, small mammals. Sometimes they'll even eat other birds. So they're amazing predators that we have in the forest. Sometimes they get the nickname tigers of the woods. So if you can see his back feathers, they're a little bit striped. And that's why they get the nickname tigers of the woods, because they're such great predators like a tiger. But first, let's talk a little bit about their adaptations. And I see some great questions. I apologize if the video was a little choppy before. I hope it's kind of corrected itself. So hoping that the video is coming through for you guys a little bit better now. But a great question from Heather: how long do these animals live? The great horned owls can live up to 30 in the wild, and some in captivity can live up to 50. So they have really long lifespans, which is amazing. And of course, in captivity, we give this guy lots of vitamins. We give him a meal every day, and he doesn't have any predators around, so we take lots of good care of him. So their adaptations make them perfect nighttime hunters. And I wanted to talk to you guys, of course, a little bit about his feathers that he has on his body. They look just like tree bark. So if you guys can see over here, that would help him camouflage in a forest, an oak forest, a pine forest. These guys will sit at the tops of trees, and during the daytime they'll sleep. But at night, when they wake up, they'll be hunting lots of different things like we talked about. And this helps them camouflage from their prey. They have these huge eyes. If we were great horned owls, our eyes would be the size of grapefruits or softballs in our head. So comparatively to our great horned owl, that's how big our eyes would be. Pretty amazing eyesight. And their eyes are facing forward, just like our eyes. They have binocular vision. So that helps them see in 3D, even when it's nighttime. And of course, those big eyes help let in any available light in the forest. So that's another really great way for them to hunt and find their food. Great horned owls, their ears are not actually right here. So their ears are underneath all of those feathers, kind of right next to his eye in this darker ring right here, these feathers right here. His ear is underneath all of those feathers. One is higher on the top of his head, and the other is a little bit lower. So the reason for that is actually that helps them hear what direction a noise is coming from. And that way they can triangulate the sound, or find exactly where the sound is coming from their right side, from their left side, and they can find their prey a lot easier because of that. If you guys at home take your thumb and your index finger and rub them together, listen for that tiny little noise. That noise, a great horned owl can hear across a basketball court. So they have amazing hearing, and that helps them hunt at night. All owls have excellent hearing. The species of owl that has the best hearing, though, is the barn owl. The owls that are mostly white and have a heart-shaped face. So the barn owls have amazing hearing, but so do the great horns as well. I wanted to also show you guys, does anyone have a guess how heavy our great horned owl is? And I'll wait just a second to see if anything comes in on the chat. How heavy do you think our great horned owl is? And while we're waiting for some guesses, I'll keep talking a little bit about great horned owls. They're actually one of the earliest nesters on Long Island. They'll nest in January, they'll nest in February. Their chicks are pretty much at this time in May fledged from the nest. So they're all grown up. They don't need their parents anymore to come feed them. So great horned owls, you'll hear them a lot. You'll hear that hooting noise a lot in the winter time, a little bit less in the springtime. But if you hear a deeper hoot followed by a kind of higher pitched hoot, that would be first the male and then the female answering him. So great horned owls, like I was saying, are one of the most common owls that we have on Long Island. So it is something that you might hear in your backyards and you might hear in local parks. Of course, we always want to give owls and any wild animal plenty of space. It is illegal to approach a bird like this, and it also is illegal to ever keep them as pets. So we always like to spread that as well. We want to keep our wild animals wild. So I see one guess of 40 pounds, right? 20 pounds, 10 pounds, and 3 to 4. When you see an animal that's this big, even maybe a cat or a small dog, they might be between 20 pounds. So those are great guesses. But birds have hollow bones. They have these really lightweight, fluffy feathers. If you watch my finger disappear until I touch Hooter's body, you can see that my finger almost halfway disappears. That is all fluffy feathers that keep him nice and warm in the wintertime. So, are you guys ready? He weighs 2.5 pounds. It's pretty amazing, right? An animal this big, only 2.5 pounds. So that way they can fly a lot easier, find their food a lot easier. They're very lightweight. So not as heavy as you think that they are. So pretty amazing. And if you have any questions about Hooter, please feel free to ask them in the chat. 50 pounds, I know. He looks like he would be much heavier, or I am super strong. I don't know. And like I was saying before, the reason why Hooter is turning his head so much is just so that he can hear what's around him, because he cannot see anymore. He's lost most of his vision, and that's why he's also kept in captivity in our care. All right. Well, we're going to move on to our next animal. But before I do that, one thing that Hooter can't do, that we can do, is move our eyes up and down and side to side. His eyes are always stuck facing forward in his head with a thing called an orbital ring. It holds the eye in place, and owl eyes are actually cone-shaped. So you notice he's turning his head to listen. An owl would have to turn their head to look around, but he cannot move his eyes in his head. Owls can turn their necks 270 degrees out of 360, whereas we can only turn our heads side to side. If you practice at home, that's only 180 degrees, whereas owls can turn theirs 270 degrees out of 360. They actually have extra neck bones, extra vertebrae, whereas we only have 7 vertebrae. Owls have 14. So that helps them turn their head. A lot of people think they can turn their head all the way around, but they cannot. All right, say goodbye, Hooter.
Nice. All right. Did everyone have a great time meeting Hooter? He is a special, beautiful bird. And now we're going to take a look at something actually that he might eat in the wild. This is a special type of reptile called anyone recognize this species? This one's a corn snake. Yep. So this corn snake is a special member of the family here at the refuge. His name is Checkers, and very obvious reason by looking at his belly, you can see that amazing checkerboard pattern that he has going on there. We don't know if he plays checkers when he's bored by himself or not, but this corn snake is a special type of snake because it's found in the southeastern part of the U.S. It's not found on Long Island or around here, only in pet stores. So down in Florida, warm regions like that. But they have a very special job on this planet, which is to keep things in balance. And in the food chain, they eat lots and lots of rodents, especially mice. So these are animals that are welcomed, especially in farmlands, because what farmer wants mice eating all their corn and other things? So they'd find these animals in the cornfields eating mice and other things. So that's where they get that's one way they get the name corn snake, but they also it's believed that they have a pattern called Indian corn or maize on their belly. So that was another theory of their name. So corn snakes generally are not a large snake compared to others that you get in the stores. This one can grow 3 to 5 feet. But he's very thin, and he's not a venomous snake, right? A lot of people are afraid of snakes, but there's no reason to be on Long Island because no snake on Long Island that we have here, indigenous or native, is venomous, right? And I say venomous instead of poisonous because poison is something that's ingested, but venom is something that's injected. So he's not venomous. What he does do is find his prey like a small mouse, grabs it with his tiny hook-like teeth in the front, and then he would swing around it and constrict it or give it a big hug, as I say. So he's what we call a constrictor. Can you guys say that at home? Very good, constrictor. So as a constrictor, he will squeeze his prey, but we have to look closely at what makes up his mouth parts. Look what he's doing right now. He's trying to give everyone a kiss at home, or is he being rude and sticking his tongue out at everyone? So if you see what he's doing with his tongue, that's one way of helping him or aiding him in finding his food, which is his sense of smell, actually. So his tongue waves. That forked tongue is designed to wave air molecules into the special nostril and Jacobson's organ area under his mouth, that he can actually taste the food that's around and sense using that sense of smell to find his prey. But he also has these really good little eyes. Now, I was surprised when I learned this about snakes. Everyone blink at home. You just made them jealous. Snakes cannot blink. They don't possess eyelids. So they actually have specialty type of eye powers, which I call superpowers. They can see in thermal imagery. So they can actually see the different levels of where heat is coming from, which would say this is a live creature. So that's one special thing can do. Another thing, adaptation, is take a look at his head. Do you see any ear holes or any ears? Yep. Snakes do not possess ears or ear holes like that. They feel vibrations through their body. So if you ever see a snake like this on Long Island, you probably should give us a call or someone else a call, because this type of snake is a really good escape artist. I call them the Harry Houdinis of the snake world. If you ever have one of these as a pet at home, and places do sell them, breeders sell them in all different colors, but you'd need a special tank that has a lock on top, first of all, and you'd also have to do your research with a pet snake as far as what type of heat they need. They're cold-blooded, right? So you need a blue day bulb and a red light bulb, right? And also a fluorescent is good to have as well. So there's different types of things like UVB and UVA you can have your bulbs give to your snake. So the thing is, even though you'd want to play with them more in the daytime, because we are diurnal creatures, snakes like this are more active at night. So that is very good, nocturnal, just like Hooter. So you have to keep that in mind too when you have them as a pet. Now, a lot of people say, well, I like snakes, but I don't like to feed them. Well, if you get an animal, you have to make sure you get them the right food, and that's important. And for them, it's Hungry Man dinner style mice here at the refuge, which means they're pre-frozen, and we heat them up and feed them one by one. And believe it or not, this tiny little mouth on Checkers here can expand by him unhinging his lower jaw and dropping it really low and swallowing his food whole one at a time. It would be a great way to have your kids at home eat their food, and you'd save a lot of money too. But these guys have the ability to unhinge that jaw. So even though he has a 1-inch head, he can fit a large 3 or 4-inch mouse in there, usually head first, and swallow it whole. So that's a cool ability they have as well. If you look at his scales, what colors do you see on his scales? All right, some beautiful reddish orange, some brown, some black. Now, all of these shiny scales are not slimy the way people think. I wish you could give him a pet from head to tail. He's actually very silky and smooth, and the reason for that is snakes like this often have to, and other reptiles, they shed their skin. So about once a month or so, our snakes will shed their skin, and there's our super jar of collection snake sheds here, and they feel just like plastic wrap. Pretty cool to see. And then underneath those old shed skins are these new, very soft, silky scales underneath. All right. Any questions about Mr. Checkers here? So snakes are not very aggressive animals. The main thing is to keep your distance. And on Long Island, you'd probably run into what's called garter snakes, the most common. They have a yellow ribbon down their back of color with black, and they're non-venomous snakes. You'll also see black racers and ringneck snakes, even certain types of water snakes. So you got to keep your eye open when you're doing hikes out there, but they're very docile, many of them, and you just don't want to touch them. Give them their distance. Oh, he's made a complete pretzel. And that's the other thing. They are very flexible, but they do have bones. So all the way down their back, You can feel your vertebrae or neck bone or backbone. They have a full series of backbone vertebrae going down, and lots and lots of ribs going all the way down. I think close to 400, I think it is. So, and they have a skull as well. So these animals do have very flexible bones. All right, making yoga people jealous around the world. All right, let's say goodbye to checkers, everyone. Very good.
All right, so another reptile that we take care of here at the refuge is a leopard gecko. And I want to show you guys her up close. But leopard geckos are reptiles, just like our corn snake and our bearded dragon. But geckos typically have skin, not really scales like our beardeds or our snakes that you can see. But if you guys can check out her bumpy skin, it's along her edge. It's a little bit bumpy and a little more raised than you might think it is. But they get the name leopard gecko because of their spots, just like a leopard. And they're beautiful, beautiful little geckos. But they can live a really long time. They can live actually up to 40 years old in captivity. So when you get a leopard gecko, that's an animal that you might have, your kids might have it through college. So it's pretty amazing. These leopard geckos live for quite a long time. I'm just going to turn her over a little so you guys can see. But this leopard gecko is anywhere between 10 to 15 years old, and she eats lots of crickets. She eats also mealworms and superworms. Those are one of her favorite foods. Leopard geckos are actually native to the deserts of Pakistan. So they are very popular pets. They were taken from the wild, and now they're captive bred on Long Island and other places and sold in pet stores. And that's the reason why you see so many leopard geckos. They are no longer taken out of the wild, but they are captive bred in captivity. This is a female leopard gecko that we've had for a number of years. She was someone's pet. Oops, sorry guys, I'm trying to find the camera. She was someone's pet that they couldn't take care of anymore. Not everyone is comfortable feeding crickets or insects to their lizard pets. So that's one thing also to think about before you get a pet like this lizard. They are beautiful. Exquisite, I think, is a great word, Lisa. Just amazingly beautiful. Those spots help confuse prey, just like a leopard's would. So in the wild, crickets, it helps her camouflage as well for things that might find her a tasty snack, like a bird of prey or another lizard. So just amazingly beautiful. They are nocturnal. And you may have noticed that she has really big eyes. So that would help her hunt at night, just like an owl. So on her face as well, you may see her ears. And they're just little holes in her head. So they don't have an ear like we do to catch sound, but her ears are still really, really great for hearing her prey, crickets. And this type of gecko, you may have noticed she has a bump on her tail right here. And when she was someone's pet, she was housed with another gecko that was a little bit aggressive and bit her tail. But it has grown back really, really well. And you can see it's huge. She's actually has the biggest tail that a lot of our staff have ever seen on a leopard gecko. And if a leopard gecko in the wild lost their tail, they would be able to grow it back partially, but it probably wouldn't look the same as their original tail. So they can't grow it back right to completion. But these geckos, they live in deserts, as we were saying. And just like another desert animal, camels store fat and water in their hump to survive when times are tough. This leopard gecko stores her fat and her water in her tail. So they'll use that almost like a camel's hump and use it for fat storage to survive when they can't find as much prey. They are definitely beautiful little geckos, but they're not the type of gecko that you'll find in like the south of the U.S. that are walking up walls and down walls. This is definitely a terrestrial gecko that just lives on the ground. Does anyone have any questions about our leopard gecko? And she's actually more active now, just like our owl, because it's closer to nighttime. Has anyone seen a lizard on Long Island? We don't have any native lizards or geckos, but there is a lizard called the Italian wall lizard. And that actually was escaped from the pet stores and has made some local populations on Long Island. So I've seen some in Riverhead. I don't know if anyone else has seen an Italian wall lizard. They look like a little bit like geckos, but much thinner, kind of like the animals that you'll find in like states like Florida. All right, so I'm going to put our gecko back. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat. All right.
Should we do one more?
Sure. All right, I know we had a little vote on social media about the animals that we showed you today. We have a bonus animal coming out right now. Just might take a second. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. And I do apologize if the video was a little hard to rely on. I do apologize if it was choppy. And like we were saying before, the refuge is still open. The trails are open for hikers. And feel free to visit sunrise to sunset during this time if you need a breath of fresh air. Here comes our bonus animal. I think you guys are going to find them really cute.
Here we go. Oh, that's better. I didn't know I could do that the whole time. How's it going? Everyone, can you please say hello to our super fuzzy and soft mammal called anyone know what this is besides Squirmy? Chinchilla. So this little guy is Chinchilla in here. His name is Nugget. Everyone say, hola, Nugget. And Nugget is the softest mammal because of a couple of reasons. His fur, whoa, look at him go, is very, very dense but fine. So there are dozens of hairs per follicle on his body. We have only one hair per follicle, so they're very, very soft with dense fur like that. This type of animal comes from a place called Peru or Bolivia area, and they're local to the Andes Mountains. So you're looking at what they call the Peruvian squirrel, and this is now a pet that is common here because of the fur trade, believe it or not. They're brought in to make coats, and unfortunately for them, it would take 200 of these per coat, which is horrible. Luckily, that got slowed down, and they became more of a pet that was taken care of here in Long Island. So if you see them, they're not a beginner pet. This is an animal that probably would be a level, I'd say 7 or so on the pet factor because A, they're nocturnal, B, they're rodents. So they're in the rodent family. It takes a lot of care to take care of rodents. They need chew toys. They need a lot of room to run around. He has a special wheel. And he even lives, they're social animals, so he lives with his son. And his son's name is McNugget, of course. So Nugget and McNugget live together. He's relaxing now. And you notice that cute little nose right there sniffing. They have a good sense of smell. Big, big ears for listening at night. Dark, large eyes for seeing at night, so that nocturnal adaptation helps him, but also these really long whiskers for running around and feeling. He's got a very long tail, just like a squirrel, so it almost looks like a squirrel, and a rabbit and a mouse got mixed together. But again, they require a lot of care. So they're pretty much herbivores, so they'll eat things like different grasses, and we have special pellets here at the refuge that have exactly what they need in there, but they also like things like trail mix, like peanuts and cranberries mixed in there. So they have a pretty varied little diet. All right, the thing you have to know about a rodent pet, whether you have that hamster or gerbil at home, is their teeth are orange or yellow, and they continually grow and grow and grow. So you have to have things that they can grind those teeth down to keep them very healthy. And for an animal like this, not only do they need that, but they also need a special type of dust bath. And this is the fun part. We like to always show everyone what keeps Mr. Nugget here so soft and fluffy. They sell it in stores like Petco, and it's a fine, fine dust that kind of looks like volcanic ash, if you will. And let's see if he's in the mood for his super dust bath today. Ready? Oop. Come on over. There we go. Oop. He's checking it out. He's checking it out. Wait for it. Oh, here we go. Let's see if he does it. Again, yes. He's getting his back. He's getting his sides. He's having a blast in there. Now, kids, don't try this at home. Usually we as humans take water baths, but they need that dust bath to coat all of their hairs. I think you had a good bath on that one. Sure. All of their hairs. We'll say adios, nugget, and that coats them. So not only does it make them so their the parasites or anything on them in the wild would stay off of them, but also if water drips on them, it makes them water repellent, and it keeps their fur very, very soft and fluffy. What I've learned are birds out in the wild will actually dust bathe before a rainstorm. So even our chickens will do that. So these animals show us different signs. If you do see a chinchilla running around also, let us know. That's how Nugget came to us. He was actually someone's pet originally, probably got away and was found running around in a restaurant. So that must have scared all of the people in there, where a giant-looking mouse is running around the restaurant, but he had gotten away, and luckily he was brought to us. So they have a pretty long lifespan for a rodent, though, 12 to 15 years or around there. That's incredible. So it's a lifetime of commitment for many of these animals, and you make sure you do your research.